Tes. Can you hear me? Hello?
Evening, Mr. Robert.
Hi, good evening, Busy.
So since we just ended the training like half an hour ago, they some of the people need to pray first.
Well, you make them work
So
hard, don't you, Busy? You're making them work hard. That's very good. Or is that me making them work hard? Probably me. So hello, everybody. Nice to meet everybody. I see we have even a guy on his motorbike that he's stopped, which is impressive. So did you have a good dinner tonight, or did you have to rush it to eat? Busy. Did you have a dinner tonight, or had no time? No time, probably. So who are we waiting for, Busy? She's disappeared off.
I beg your pardon, Mr.
So who are we waiting for? Are we waiting for?
Um, First of all, Professor Krishna and our moderator for today, for
Ah, okay.
tonight.
Yeah, so we're actually in the hotel Harper HT here in Jakarta. It's my first time actually in Indonesia. So I've been to many countries around the world, but it's very nice to actually come finally to Indonesia, even though I haven't seen that much. So hopefully the next time I have more time to explore not just the city itself, but also in other places, because I know it's a huge country. Also, the cuisine. The people tell me the difference of cuisine of Indonesia and Thailand. My wife is Thai, so she cooks Thai food at home, and what I realized that Thai food is more spicy than Indonesian food. So you probably find European food pretty boring compared with Indonesian, which is very nice. But if you actually have lots of spicy, then pretty much everything is boring when you don't have spicy because you miss the spice and all the chilies.
Yeah. Actually, Indonesian have much more spice too, but we try our best to not serve you any spice,
No, no,
any spicy food.
do serve me spicy food. I love spicy food. So
Oh, we don't know that.
I know, no,
Okay.
I get bored with no spice. So
Okay.
it's a bit like June, this blue spice they have from the worms. If you watch June,
Okay, mister.
so people all around Indonesia. So you got probably people from different cities. Uh, is that right? So you got people in Jakarta, people in other cities around Indonesia joining us tonight.
Yeah, we're helping so.
Mhm. I'm with about 45 people from Indonesia. So we're actually going through a 5-day course especially designed for big groups. And this is actually the IPMOP, so the practitioner certification. This is the green one on the invitation. I actually wasn't meant to be there, the logo, but it's on there. So this is actually for project managers as well as PMO people, as consultants, actually people from consulting organizations. And we also have one above, which is the expert course. So the P is for single PMO, the practitioner. Most people work in single PMOs, but really the power of the PMO is when they work, or PMOs when they work together as a team, which is not very often. So we actually have an expert course that looks at multiple PMO designs and operating models. So it starts to get complex and very interesting, working in multiple PMO scenarios. Different countries are at different levels of maturity in the sense of what they do and who they do it with. A lot of it comes down to who teaches you. So if you don't get taught much, you don't know much. And there are some countries that teach PMOs as purely administration, and therefore the PMOs don't really do that much. In other countries, there are people there and influencers that teach far more. So in fact, what we're doing for this course is we have actually the first version 7 of the materials. We update them pretty much every year. It's 10 years we've actually been running all the courses since we started in 2015, so we're 10 years old. But also we wrote a unique case study. So we actually solved real problems actually it's 9 PMOs on the course. So it was a lot of work. So the team was actually working till 6 o'clock, BC, yeah, or 6:30. What time did they leave?
30, yeah.
Okay, so I got into trouble because the places are meant to close at 6 o'clock, or obviously did, and so they kept it open. And the reason being is because when you got real consulting, real case studies, you don't actually know the complexity of the problem until you start on it. But what you need is a very good group of people, highly motivated, and they follow a method, but then they adapt it accordingly, as all methods should be adapted. And so they're going to finish the first phase of the case study probably tomorrow afternoon. And then we got the second phase where we actually look at all of them in a multi-PMO scenario. So we're actually doing something we don't normally do. So we're actually going to play a scenario tomorrow. And then on Thursday, or probably on Thursday, we do the third part where we do simulation of the models, the operating models that we're building. So this is something that I really enjoy experimenting and trying these things out. And it actually, because of the experience we have and how we do it, we're confident we get the results. And the people that attend have to learn a lot, a hell of a lot. But also they contribute a lot and they actually help to solve the problems of the PMO client. So one plays the client with a real PMO, so they can actually take back a presentation with them and actually get an understanding of how to improve the performance and the impact of their PMOs. We've been doing this now for about 6 years, doing real case studies with real PMOs. So I'm just talking away until our colleagues turn up.
Yeah, they're joining in a little bit.
So if anybody wants to ask any questions, so feel free if you want to ask questions. So just you can come off mute, I presume. This is just Teams. I put together some slides because originally when I spoke to Rahu, I'm tired. So Rahu, I thought there'd be only 10 people turning up, and she said there's a lot more that's been invited. So I think it's far more than 10. And so I decided to make it more formal by just putting some ideas together. And what we're going to look at is, what do you need as individuals, professionals? So how can the association support you? So what do you need for tomorrow, tomorrow's world of artificial intelligence, with robotics, with the way things are going? And we'll describe some of those. So the idea is to sort of stimulate the thinking. And then also, how can associations, global associations, regional, local associations best respond? So there's two parts to it. So you need something, and we provide something, but is that what you actually need in today's environment? And is that what you need in tomorrow's environment? So we're going to make a suggestion of a new idea, and really, it's just then open to discussion, and really points is really open for everybody. If you want to know about what's happening in Europe, in the Middle East, in the US, you can ask questions. If you want to understand about the different standards and how they're written, I'm actually one of the few people in the world that have written standards for the British government before Prince 2. I know them very well. Also with PMI, I volunteered on the core committee as one of the key people on the core committee. I developed the portfolio life cycle. That's what I did with David, another guy. It never existed before version 3, and we realized it's a weakness and actually developed it. I wrote the governance chapter on the portfolio standard. I actually worked with Professor Rolf Muller. We worked together on that, plus other chapters as well. And then I also, my PhDs on methodologies. So I know the competence baseline very well. Also, we developed all the frameworks and all the methods of AI PMO. So feel free to ask any questions about methodologies or any sort of topic you like when we come to the discussion section. So I think we're ready to start now. Is that right?
Yes, Mr. We can start now. Okay, I'm gonna start the opening in Bahasa Indonesia again. I'm sorry. Selamat malam Bapak dan Ibu, selamat datang di PMO dan P3M Indonesia, Community Gathering of Independent Association and Member Communities. Kami sangat senang dan merasa terhormat dapat menyambut kehadiran Bapak dan Ibu semua pada kesempatan hari ini. Apalagi ini sudah jam 7 malam, tapi masih ada 61 orang yang sangat semangat untuk membahas hari ini ya Bapak Ibu. Baik, untuk secara resmi membuka kegiatan malam ini, kami mengundang Profesor Dr. Insinyur Krisna S. Pribadi, Ketua Ikatan Ahli Manajemen Proyek Indonesia, untuk menyampaikan sambutan pembuka. Kepada Profesor Krisna, waktu dan tempat kami persilahkan.
Baik, Bapak Ibu semuanya yang saya hormati, terima kasih atas kehadiran Bapak Ibu semua menyempatkan diri dalam waktu yang singkat ini untuk bergabung bersama berdiskusi mengenai perkembangan global komunitas project management di dunia, dan kita punya kedatangan tamu Dr. Robert Yoslin yang sangat memahami situasi perkembangan ini dan mempunyai beberapa pengalaman maupun pengetahuan yang ingin dibagi bersama kita untuk memahami perkembangan tersebut. Nah, memang terutama di komunitas manajemen proyek dan project management organizations itu ada dinamika organisasi profesi di seluruh dunia. Dan kita ingin mendengarkan pandangan dari Dr. Robert Jocelyn. Thank you, Dr. Robert Jocelyn, for your availability to share your understanding and also knowledge about the dynamics of the global project management community. So it will be very useful for us in Indonesia to also understand these directions, and that will provide us good input to decide within ourselves, the project management communities in Indonesia, to which directions to take and to follow. I think this will be, I hope, will be a good brainstorming for all of us, to at least all of us can share ideas, also insights on what is our path in the future to develop as a project management community in Indonesia. So with this, I am opening this discussions. I would be happy to give this floor to Dr. Robert Jocelyn. We have also here moderator, Pak Sabto from IAMKRI, will be happy to facilitate our discussions. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. So Rahu is responsible for me being here in Indonesia. Without Rahu, I wouldn't be actually in the course or actually having this conversation. She's made sure that my time is used pretty much every day of the week, meeting people, having discussions. As I mentioned earlier, that there's 45 people from IMP members actually on a course, and they're working. Am I pushing them too hard? Or we, Krishna, or the it's okay. I'm not pushing your members too hard in the course. Hopefully not. So they've got a lot to do. We have lots of discussions. In fact, some of the discussions that we've had is actually the changes that are happening in the world, from both a geopolitical side, from a technical side, and what we wanted to do is really seeing whether what is it? I'll just put it's on mute. Okay. What we wanted to see is what is actually needed from yourselves, as members. What would you need, or what would I need if I was a member from an association? And then how can we actually best serve that? And we've even suggested an idea, or as a sort of something to discuss, and seeing is that something of interest to you. So this is the first time I actually put the presentation or presented it. I actually put it together 2 nights ago when I realized there was a lot of people attending this. So the title is Community Gathering, PMO.
Robert, I'm sorry, but I haven't introduced our moderator for tonight yet.
Oh, okay. My apologies.
Okay.
I'll stop here and...
I'm sorry, everyone. Please welcome our moderator, Mr. Muhammad Sabto Nugroho, as IAMKRI co-founding member, who will lead the discussion and introduce our distinguished speaker today. Mr. Sabto, please introduce yourself. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you for the short introductions. Hello, my name is Afan Sugardi, and I'm a co-founding member of IAMKRI, or Indonesia Lean Constructions Professional Associations of Indonesia. I'm also a construction management lecturer at Universitas Sakti. So before we begin our discussion, I would like to introduce Dr. Robert Jocelyn. So we are honored to welcome Dr. Robert Jocelyn, a leading global expert in project management and governance, with a career spanning 3 decades from high-level consulting at McKinsey to authoring the definitive PMO body of knowledge. Dr. Jocelyn bridged the gap between academic research and real-world business transformations. He is the visionary behind the IPMO strategic lifecycle frameworks and a key contributor to international project management standards. So please welcome Dr. Robert Jocelyn. Please start your presentations and start our discussion tonight. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, it all sounds very formal when they sort of do the introduction to your title, things like this. In fact, when I was looking at the Excel sheet, it was like, my goodness, everybody's a superstar in Indonesia with all the titles and everything. In Switzerland, titles are so important. In Austria, it's very important. They like the doctor, professor, etc. So depending on which country, I guess, depends on how much you reflect on the titles. really at the end, it's what do you contribute as an individual? I would never call myself an expert. I just like to explore and challenge, and it's really for you to decide what I present or what others present, or whether that's something that you can actually use and benefit in your organization. So really, that's the purpose, and this is actually to stimulate ideas. So in the agenda, Rahu asked me, okay, put some things together. So I put some topics down here for discussion points. But then I thought, let's simplify this and just give an introduction. Why do we need to do something now? We and both sides, as the members, the individuals yourselves, but also we as associations, and whether it's a local association, a regional, or one that actually pertains to actually have international attraction. So I guess global associations. And then what do you need, or what do we think you need as individuals, as professionals, irrespective of industry and probably irrespective of country as well? And then what do we do from an association perspective? So what do we need to prepare for tomorrow so that we stay relevant and therefore that we can actually serve you, but also to survive as well? Is that we have no members, there's no point of an association. In fact, when I was looking at setting up an association in 2015, I had to ask the question, is there a need for associations? Is that the right thing to go and do? Should we just call ourselves like a house of PMO, for example, what they call themselves, and it's more like a for-profit center? So these are sort of questions they asked back 10 years ago. And these questions are as relevant or more relevant today, not just to start something new, but also what is the future of associations and what we can offer. And it's something that I don't think anyone's got the answer. But as people that were on the course, when they saw the David Snowden framework, the decision-making framework, when you got something that's very sort of complex, this is when you get people together and you actually discuss things and come up with a potential solution. So this is what we're going to do today. And we have a discussion at the end, of course. So background, you can read my background on LinkedIn or on the AIPMO website. So case for action. So this is typically what we look at, is to stimulate people saying, we got to do something about it. The first thing is at polarization. So polarization, this is a blog I wrote, I think it was last year, and you see chess, you got the black and white, one on one side, one on the other. Polarization, you have, for example, polarization in project management. So where you have agile and waterfall, they always explain you either in one camp or the other. Or in politics, you're either Democrat or you're Republican, or you are conservative and you are Labour in England, for example. Polarization is not healthy because you have to choose the two extremes. And what you really want to have is the choice of things and not to have to go to one extreme or the other. And it's also the same as well with project management certifications, is that people tend to be PMI or something else, whether it's IPMA or it's a local association. And what we're saying is that this seems to be becoming more and more systemic, more happening across the world. So this is the word systemic, means across everywhere. A systemic issue, a systemic risk. The risk is that if we actually continue this way, it means that people yourselves won't have a choice. You'll just have to look at one organization because maybe that's the only one that exists that actually support your needs, which therefore causes a problem for all the other organizations that may be better in certain areas, but not necessarily the best in everything at all. So let me give some quotes. Often in consulting, you would look at these quotes and you'll say, okay, this helps to create the case for action. The first one's from Stephen Hawkins. So Stephen Hawkins did a lot of research. He was a professor at Cambridge. He's an eminent professor worldwide. He died. He had a disease that was slowly killing him. He came up with this quote: the greatest enemy of knowledge is not ignorance, it's the illusion of knowledge. There's a lot of certifications out there, a lot of people professing to know something, and actually they don't. These people, often they're PMO influences or influences in some way, and the worst thing is that they profess to know something and people follow them, and it's actually more detrimental than positive. The second one, the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those that cannot write and read, but those that cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. So this is, you may get taught something, but you may find it was actually wrong. Then you've got to unlearn it, and you've got to then relearn. So I'll give an example that when I was 16 years old, I was playing squash with my father's best friend, and he beat me and I beat me. And I thought I was good at what I was fit, young, etc. And I played somebody else. They beat me 9-0, 9-0, 9-0. I didn't realize how bad I was until I played somebody else. And then from that point, because I benchmarked myself, I had to unlearn all the mistakes I was making and then relearn the right way of doing it. And it took me 4 years, but then I played competition squash. Thing is, are you able to go and do that yourself? That you may learn things that actually don't exist or that are wrong. I'll give an example in PMOs. So you learn, for example, from PMI, there's 3 types of PMOs: supportive, controlling, and directive. Those don't exist. We never had one PMO, an AI PMO, courses for 10 years, hundreds of PMOs, never one fitted in it. And then what happens is that you change the name. So you see the next standard, they got something else, they got something else. And the thing is that you can learn and unlearn, but then you may want to sort of think out, maybe you need to actually look at who you're learning from, who do you actually trust, and then make sense. Sense making is really important. And we're teaching this on the course. Who do you trust? Do you trust AI? Do you trust the association IMP? Do you trust me talking to you? Do you trust PMI, who is a big influence in the world? And it's really for you to work out where it makes sense. AI, Stephen Hawkins again. AI is likely to be either the best or the worst thing to happen into humanity. The thing about everything we invent, it can always be used positive and negative. For example, if you look at the nuclear bomb, also discovering radiation, and then we're inventing the bomb, negative, but then we got nuclear power, positive. There's always opposites, and unfortunately, with AI, it's so powerful. And we were discussing this. In fact, the course we're running, we totally rewrote it with artificial intelligence, and we actually have built models now with the AI, especially in maturity and impact models, and we've developed lots of new scales and things, is that it can be very positive, but also very negative. For example, with language models and with artificial intelligence, they're actually showing that your cognitive abilities of people are dropping. You're getting more stupid or getting, less intelligent. That is not a positive thing. With the internet, originally when the internet came out, there were psychologists saying it's very positive, and now they're saying it's very negative. In fact, they've banned social media in Australia, if you may read about it, about 4 weeks ago, because of the damaging effect of social media on individuals, on young people. The real problem is not whether machines think, but it's whether men do. This almost goes to the point above. So I remember reading, just read recently, there's people writing on LinkedIn saying, oh, AI will never take over from project managers. But we have an expression, little knowledge is dangerous. What I'm finding is that project managers know very little. They don't know much. AI knows much more. And therefore, it comes to a point where project managers don't really do anything. They just ask and it comes out. They don't know what the basis is. And then AI is able to sort of then get rid of project managers. So it says, why do we need these guys? We can do it ourselves. And then you look at the ability of robots now. So Elon Musk is actually going to be paid $1 trillion if he sells 1 million of his robots. That's a lot of robots, and that's just within the first 5 years. So you have the Industrial Revolution, where the machines took away the need for muscle. You got AI takes away a need for intelligence, and you got robotics that creates mobility. So then it does question, okay, what's our role in this? It's Charles Darwin. So Charles Darwin actually looked at evolution. He wrote a book on how a species evolved. He stated here, it's not the strongest of the species that survive, nor is the most intelligent, but the ones that most responsive to change. Either you adapt or you die. There is not one species out there, including humans, that are not highly adapted to the environment. If you don't adapt, you die. And this is actually for us as humans, and this is also part of the topic, that if we don't adapt the associations to what is happening, if you don't adapt to what you need to learn with the likes of artificial intelligence, with robotics and everything else, then not necessarily the word survive, because in our world, you do survive, but in the animal world, natural science, it means that basically that you will get taken over or killed by something else. So all of these quotes are very relevant to what we see today, and that's why we need to take action. So what do you actually need? What do you think you need as we sort of move forward in your professional landscape? Now, why does this conversation matter now? So what we're seeing is that the metrics used to actually assess your value is no longer stable or probably relevant. So originally they used, PMP, for example. I think it's the most used certification in the world, project management professional. But if everybody's project management professional, how do you differentiate? Yeah, there's people that say that PMP, they say they won't take people on with PMI certifications. There's one specifically say, well, it provides no value. There's discussions on the LinkedIn forums. With globalization, how remote working has changed. In Switzerland, I'm from a country the most expensive in the world. I can actually, one person that's a professional, you can get 12 people in one of the developing countries for the same price. Therefore, there's no real jobs in Switzerland. They all get sent to other countries. It's actually enabled by transaction cost economics, the ability to do transactions, by supply chains, by telecommunications, by a common language, by sort of a rule-based system, how you work together. All of these things, they change how you actually value skills. So salaries in Switzerland have been dropping since 1990 to a point where they actually have to limit or stop salaries dropping because you cannot survive in Switzerland. The same is in true other countries. Certifications, everybody gets a certification. So when we started in 2015, Americo Pinto from now PMI, I knew him at that time, and he had a software that he was selling, and he thought, let's do a certification with his software. We were going to do his certifications. Since that sort of starting point, now what you have is loads of associations have been set up on the PMO side. And in fact, the sales guy that used to sell for us set his own one up and used our materials, and then he actually has his own association. So how can you actually tell which certification is of value and which one isn't? The differentiation is much harder to actually determine because there's so much choice out there, and you've got to work out what is of value, what isn't. With artificial intelligence, it's a question of then what does competence actually mean? Is it just searching on AI? Like, for example, today, we have one of the 9 teams is actually we're using AI, and they were actually helping the other teams to accelerate. What took the other team 3 hours, we can now do it in 5 minutes. It is that fast. We would never be able to do this course if we didn't use AI and have experience of using it. And in fact, this is what we were teaching on the course today, and we're going to continue tomorrow till Thursday. They're going to do 3 times the amount of work than the teams that didn't have access to AI for the case studies we used to go and run. And that is phenomenal. So when people say that AI doesn't take away the jobs of individuals, well, if they can do 3 times the amount of work, you need 1/3 of the people. So therefore, clearly it has an impact on that as well. So these sort of things are going to impact yourself. And I was saying to one of the gentlemen today, Sapto, that there's a guy in England that used to find getting jobs easy, and he wrote on LinkedIn that he applied and didn't hear back, and they told him we had 1,650 applications in England for one PMO job. It is highly competitive. I knew that was coming myself back in 2010, and that's why I changed and then also did my PhD and set up AI PMO, because I knew Switzerland, for example, would be losing jobs to cheaper countries. That's just the way everything is there to make that happen. So therefore, we're going to try to highlight today what needs to happen, what we think needs to happen on your side, so you stay relevant rather than become irrelevant. So certifications, are they enough? The differentiation. So yes, certifications for branded organizations are important. So people go to Starbucks, they go to McDonald's, for example, but not because the food is better, because the brand. So brands are really important. IPMA, PMI, perhaps AI PMO, we have a brand now after 10 years. So brands hopefully build trust. So we know that's important. But there's other ones that you need to question, and even maybe some of the ones that do have brands, you want to sort of make sure you're getting value as a member. Looking at mobility. So when I was in Australia teaching the courses, the IPMOP course and the expert course, the IPMA Australia, which is called AIPM, was losing members. They were going bankrupt because they weren't appealing to the new Gen Z. And in fact, I was presenting at PMI, and I asked, why don't you become a member of your local country association? And they said, we want a mobile certification. AIPM isn't. Well, they didn't realize that AIPM is part of IPMA, and this is the weaknesses of IPMA. They didn't have a global brand strategy. They've now changed that or beginning to change it. You need a global brand strategy because everybody wants to have a certification that can be taken over to any country and recognized. The problem is that how do you actually explain this certifications to different countries and have different priorities? So, for example, in the GCC, PMI have made it such that every company just has one box to tick for certification, just one. It's called PMP. Nothing else counts. However, if you go to Finland, IPMA is more important. So what we're seeing is polarization between IPMA and then the country. So IPMA, they call themselves PRY, you call it IMP. So you're the equivalent of like an IPMA. So people have to make a choice. There's also a new thing as well, is that PMI have actually made it official that you're not allowed as a senior person on any of these associations to be on both associations at the same time. You have to make a decision. You join PMI or you IPMA. So this is a problem. So this is actually creating polarization when I went back to the first one. Also, certifications that contain impact measurements will be far more in demand. What this means, impact, is not what you know, it's the impact you make. If you look at the consulting companies, I used to work at McKinsey. I was recruited, somebody saw what I did and the impact I made. I went through interviews for one day, 3 in the morning, 3 in the afternoon, and met the partner and made an offer. And during those interviews, they asked me one question about why do we exist as McKinsey? Give me one word. And I said impact. And that was the word they use, impact. This is the same now as well. If you want to look at differentiating yourselves, it's not what you know, it's the impact you make. So we need to sort of find a way. And how do we actually show when a person gets 400 CVs that this person's created a bigger impact than somebody else? So any ones of these certifications have an impact measurement will probably be more in demand than others. Now we look at artificial intelligence and the meaning of competence. So AI is actually reducing the static knowledge and memorizing. So, for example, AI PMO is open book. We say you don't need to memorize it. In fact, we give you GPTs with the information. You need to understand the concepts, the thinking, the abstraction. That's what's important. There's no point in having closed books and memorizing today because everything is accessible. Or you even have memory implants, or you got implants into the head where you can actually talk, and the computer actually picks this up. This stuff exists. We built it in Switzerland for people that are deaf, for example, implants into the head. Greater emphasis on judgment and context, decision quality. So one of the things that I built, we won this project. We were one of 20 companies and the biggest project in the world, 3 trillion. And we actually built a war room, one of the most advanced in the world with 220 feeds. And it was all about information, aggregation, and being able to understand and take a decision in a certain context. This is where it's going today. Now, if you have this artificial intelligence, it provides that information. And then competence is actually, when you look at competence models like the IPMA one, they create generic competence models. So it's a generic thing. But do you want something generic, or would you prefer something specific to what you're doing or what you're going to do? So specific competence models, do they exist today? No. Do we know how to go and create them? Yes. So who's going to be creating that? Is that something that's of interest? Could it be of actually use? So you can actually create a specific competence model for your PMO, for your project or program, or what's needed, and then see whether the people you're interviewing actually have that specific competence. What is the impact of that on the actual job market? So what we're describing is that you're going from generic credentials, sort of cookie cutter, to ones that are contextual, it's the impact you actually make. So can you actually have a credential that's specific and contextual, which actually then is relating to the company you want to apply for or to the position you want? So these one-size-fits-all certifications, they struggle in complex environments, in project management or PMO. The people on the course learn today why best practice does not relate to project management or PMOs. Because best practice is absolute, it's a single way of doing something. We work in a very complex or complicated environment where there's many ways to do things. This is where all the simple things are going to be automated. In fact, what we did, and Seth done it several times, is that we've actually put into the artificial intelligence all the things that people do on the PMO and project management, and how much does AI take over. In our world, it's about 80% that AI can do. This is what it tells us it can actually do. In other worlds, it varies between 30% minimum up to 90%. So therefore, we need to find a way. This will happen, and if you don't do it, somebody else will do it. So it's far better you want to create your own future rather than being part of somebody else's. And that's why we're having this conversation. What do you think you need from associations, and how can we support you so you stay relevant, and so do we? So here you want to demonstrate impact. Here you operate in a complex environment, and this is where you probably want to get to. Maybe even moving away from actually doing all the work on projects. You don't bother with scheduling anymore. That's all done by artificial intelligence, all the Monte Carlo simulations and the ways you actually look at probabilities, that's automated. And really what you're doing is understanding, interpreting, and actually communicating. So we need to actually look how we support you in this environment. Yeah, you need to have knowledge that goes beyond just or support just beyond knowledge transfer, meaning that maybe there's other ways that not just transferring but working with you, maybe more in the community side, giving you insights and experience that matters not just today but in the future. So I'm giving you some examples of things that you need to really think about, so you have your eyes wide open and not something just hits you because you went away with it. Getting closer to community practice, but ones that look at innovation. So we actually, one of the things you can actually look at, and we have in the course, is called the Kano effect, how PMOs delight the client. Then what happens, it becomes a basic need, and the client is disappointed, and they say, well, why do we need a PMO? So we know it, and we can show in the research why it happens. And that's why innovation is so important, that you not just do the same thing because it's going to be automated anyway, is that how do you innovate? And that's the reason why AI PMO is set up as an innovation organization. We're the first ones to actually define PMO management. We are the first ones to create the PMO lifecycle, the service lifecycle framework. We design brand new skills for impact and maturity based on principles and services. We're the first ones to write the books on PMO services and capabilities, the first ones to write books on PMO principles. We've written the PMO management standard. So all the time we're innovating. And we actually published a series of research papers now that is actually backing up all the work we're actually doing. So we're trying to be able to stay relevant and drive this thing. And so when you need support, we can do it. And I'm sure it's the same as well with the other associations. So you need to, how do you prepare for the future? You want to try to find a way of resilience in your career. So for example, when I grew up, people invested in DVD shops, out of business, online streaming, for example. Looking at all the bricks and mortar shops, and everybody orders online. I don't bother going shopping. I order it, it comes within 12 hours. And the same here. So many things change in my lifetime, and so many things are going to change and much faster in the future. Impact judgment, the ability to become critical. How do you do that? How do you become something so important that people come to you while you struggle to get a position? Being aware that there's no one single model that fits all these contexts or stages. So you're going to have to adapt all the time. Like I changed from being an engineer. I never thought of myself as an academic. I left school at 16, did my apprenticeship in engineering, but then I realized I need to adapt or I die. My colleagues who didn't are unemployed in Switzerland. They look at me and say, "Oh, you're part of the associate, or you run association." So I looked ahead, have the courage to go and do so, and you have to look really hard look at what the possibilities are. Also, what we want to try to do is that because of this polarization, we want to find a way that you don't have to choose sides. Do you have to choose PMI? Do you have to choose waterfall? Do you have to choose IPMA over something else? Can you get the best of everything? Which is probably ideal for what you need for your own environment. And you can make these informed decisions rather than just having to choose one or the other. So these are some of the challenges that you will have yourselves. What I'll do now is just finish this one off, and then we'll go into then the actual discussions part. So how do we can respond as associations? And I just have to say that the others have not seen this. So this is purely my view, our view of how things could go. But there's also many paths that we can actually do to actually progress on this side. So what are the constraints we face as associations? Well, members value global recognition. Wherever you go, it's nice to get recognition. So, for example, James Bond, wherever he walks, his reputation precedes him, wherever he goes. You have some people that are famous wherever they go, like Daniel Craig or Prince Charles, for example, or one of the pop stars, or Tom Cruise. They they're recognized worldwide. So you want to have something that actually you're recognized worldwide. So mobility, credibility that it carries and helps you get a job. Local certifications alone, they don't have by definition this international signaling power. And this is the problem in every profession, whereas you have to retrain. So in the medical profession, a qualification, for example, in one country doesn't hold relevant in another country. You don't want to spend 4 years doing it. Global certifications often lack local relevance. So you go the opposite now. You got something, but it's not relevant to your country. There may be things that are not in there. So you've got to sort of force to choose. Do I sort of take this and sort of duplicate it? Or is there a way I can pick and choose? Is that possible to pick and choose? So what we were thinking about is it possible to create something where we have a global anchor, like an association that is globally recognized, IPMA or AIPMO? We're not everywhere, but we have international, and we've trained people in majority of countries in the world, but also recognize the local countries as well. So we actually have both. We have the IAMP, we have the other ones here, and so we can actually have this sort of global and local relevant certification. So what you get if you have this is that you have something you can carry worldwide without losing relevance. You don't have to duplicate the courses because you pick the ones you want, a bit like in the periodic table. You can pick these. It's a clear signal to employers that you actually are working, or you're working in this sort of federation of certifications or organizations. And it also gives confidence that the credentials travel across the different countries. And by the fact there's more than one, it's unlikely that it's going to just see, oh, you got the one. You've actually got a combination, and this is the combination that we actually need for this particular job in this particular country. So it could be something like the periodic table, where you actually have global, regional, local. You've got global players involved with this, regional associations and local associations, something like this. So you've got the capabilities, you've got specialist modules, they all fit in together into this. We align all the modules as a federated group of associations, and then you can actually put the profiles, or you can select what you want to have, but it's locally recognized as well as global. So here we have this showing the different logos, and then you have the certificate that's got multiple stamps on it. And it may be that one of these actually drive it. So perhaps we drive the PMO certifications. Perhaps IMP looks at the one that's particular to Indonesia, for example. And I don't know the other two, so I do apologize for the other people here. So it's just a concept of like a federated certification outcome. So in Switzerland, we're federated. Switzerland is a country of federations, and America is the same as well. Why can't we apply that idea to certifications as well? So you don't have to choose between one or the other. You can actually have a selection, you can have your cake and eat it as such. So what would we need to agree on in associations? So I haven't discussed this with any other association. You're the first ones to hear it. But if you think this is a good idea, you want to discuss it in your own communities, discuss it with IMP, discuss it with the other associations, maybe pick it up with IPMA, for example. So we have this taxonomy, this sort of structure of certificates that you can actually have, and they need to agree, which ones do we take from which associations, what are local, what are regional, what are global. Looking at micro certifications, what are the rules for working and the branding, respecting the boundaries of this thing? How do we adapt this thing? Because this thing will probably need to adapt over time. These are some of the challenges that we would have. So therefore, we would look at global federated, what we're allowed to do. We need to build these structures. We need to combine these things together. But what we're doing is actually showing transparency across all the contributing bodies. Are we able, as independent associations, to realize that polarization is not good, and therefore we create something that's in the middle that you can choose what you actually want, but it's still locally and globally recognized? So how does this actually work? So you would go into participation, that we be different associations will be contributing different content and different relevance. We'll probably have the same exam approach in the sense how we go and do it. So just like IPMA has its central exam system, but you have different certifications that go across it. And at the end, then you would actually have this certificate itself with the various stamps on it that is globally recognized. So that was just really a snippet, an idea of how we could possibly respond, and there's a suggestion, but then also what sort of things that you need to be aware of and think about, and what would you like to request from associations for today and tomorrow. So that I'd like to hand over to back to Ampi.
Sato.
Or Sato, yeah, thank you. Back to Sato.
Okay, thank you. I think we will move to the question and session answer, right? But before, I would like to a bit summarize. So, Dr. Robert Jocelyn discussed about the current polarizations in the industry where professionals must choose between competing associations, and argues that certifications must evolve from generic one-size-fits-all models to contextual impact-based credentials that measures actual contribution rather than memorized knowledge. And there was also we discussed about the federated certifications that was consists of several local association professional associations that could, I would say, that globally recognizable, so not lack of local relevance. So I think that's a bit of my I would say a bit summarized from the presentation from Dr. Robert Jocelyn. So if there is any questions, if there are any questions from participants in the online participants, please you could raise your hands to ask the questions. Hmm?
If you want to say it in Indonesian and then it gets translated, that's fine.
Oh,
If you're worried about the language.
okay. There is one participant that want to ask questions. Please, Mr. Rifandi, open your
Okay.
microphone.
Yeah, okay. Good evening, everyone. Mr. Sabto and also Dr. Robert. Maybe one question for me, as based on your explanation. So currently we are here in Indonesia. Well, to be honest, I haven't joined any of this association for IAMPI, Ikatan Ahli Manajemen Proyek Indonesia. But for the past 2 years, I already registered as an PII in Indonesia, or maybe Persatuan Insinyur Indonesia, or Indonesian Association of Registered Engineer. And for this step by step or so many step of certification, is there any partnership between IAPMI and also PII? Because also in PII itself already 3 stage of certification based on the years of experience, IPP, IPM, and IPU. Let's say just for young engineers, intermediate, and experts. For us, which is better, because an international certification is probably mainly is it for us to want to go overseas as a project manager or working on a project management discipline, or maybe is it okay for us that works locally in Indonesia but having an international certifications? Please explain about that. Thank you. Maybe that's all from me and my question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rifandi. I guess Dr. Robert Jocelyn could answer it, and then we go next to the next question.
Actually, it's not, the question is more about local certification. So that organization he mentioned. So it's really somebody within IMP or that association should answer that. I can't answer it as a international person.
Okay.
Maybe I can provide
Perhaps.
some insight
Okay.
on this.
Okay, thank you, Professor Krishna. Please.
Yeah. So For your understanding, Dr. Robert Justin, the PII is the Indonesian Association of Engineers, and EMP, of course, is project management. And each of the organization, it has a certification system mechanism, etc. The question is whether the knowledge discussed or developed by each of the association are overlapping or within the same zone, or it's completely different domain. Yeah, we consider that, of course, a different domain. Yeah, but sometimes in our situation in Indonesia, many professional associations, they try to claim their knowledge domain very widely, so that that maybe produce confusions for many of us. Yeah. And the second thing is about the international globalizations. Yeah. For example, ASEAN has already signed an MRA, mutual recognition arrangement, since 2011, I think, on the engineering, yeah, for engineering professions. Also for the architect professions. What does mutual recognition arrangement means? It just mechanism where one credential from one country within the ASEAN countries can be acknowledged or accepted in the other countries. The purpose of this MRA is mostly for the mobilizations purpose, yeah, to support mobilizations between ASEAN countries for engineers and also for architects. I think there are other professions also that already have this kind of arrangement. That's the surveyors and also the accounting. Yeah. And well, the good, maybe the good initiative or good intentions, I would like that to say that there's a good intentions to enable or to ease the mobilization process of engineers and architects between different countries. Yeah. But in practice, it doesn't work very well. I can say that because each country still have their own regulations that maybe in some areas complicate the process of mobilization. Or still, each of the ASEAN countries actually has its own pride and its own protection intention for the internal protections of their own human resources. This is what happened. So I have been in the Indonesian monitoring committee for this engineering services for maybe more than 5 or for 7 years. Yeah. And what I felt is that we do many things, but we did not, until now, we do not achieve our intentions to promote mobilizations of engineers and also architects between ASEAN countries. So this is what happened. I don't know. To compare that maybe with EU, I think they have much better arrangement in EU. So mobilizations is not a problem anymore. I think. Yeah. Please provide us also with this understanding, Dr. Robert, on this.
Yes.
So this is my 5 cents. Yeah. Please.
Yeah. So I was talking about having something where you have a selection of certifications with an overriding recognition. So you're part of this community or this recognized group. I think, Rahu, you had a specific term, which I can't remember what you actually said, but you will tell us in a second. The problem with engineering, as you say, you have regulations, and so you follow the standards, the building standards of particular countries, and they're not transportable. In Europe, they are trying to sort of standardize it so the engineers are more mobile. And when you look at various projects like in, for example, NEOM or the Red Sea project, because they've got a lack of engineers, they would normally work to US codes or they work to local Saudi codes, but there is more mobility because the need of engineers in that country. So if you was to expand this certification, just go along the approach that I was describing, there may be certain ones that are specific, not only for the country, but for the industry, but there'll be other certifications that are more transportable and generic, like, for example, project management certifications. So if you needed a portfolio of certifications, it would still work within this concept to get global recognition with this umbrella thing over the top, but some would always remain specific to an industry and country, and others could be actually considered to go across countries, whether it's regional, global, like our one is not specific to any particular country. Perhaps Rahul, I know you put your hand up, and then next, Chahul.
Yes,
Yeah.
my question.
Sorry, Mr. Cahyo first. Okay. Thank you for the answer from Professor Krishna and Dr. Robert Jocelyn. Next, please, Mr. Cahyo.
Yeah. Halo, Dr. Robert.
Hi, good
Greeting
evening.
from Pekanbaru, Rio area.
Mhm.
Okay, my name is Cahyo. As you mentioned that you did your PhD in AI.
Mhm.
in
No,
related
I didn't do it in artificial intelligence. No, my PhD was in strategy, project leadership, and PMO management in that area.
Okay, yeah. And you mentioned about the AI applied for the PMO.
Yeah, that's correct. So we've written 4 books on artificial intelligence, actually called AI PMO, just happens to be the name of the association. And we haven't published it in a publishing house like Amazon, but what we have is that we have GPTs, or we've actually have it in PDFs that we upload into the models. So what we're doing is making it accessible to the models, but not making it accessible yet to the public. And part of that is because the time to actually prepare to publish a book on Amazon takes a lot of time and a lot of cost.
Okay, yeah. I'm just wondering because if we try to understand the PMO, there are many services, right? Yeah, and then if we are talking about the AI, which part of the services that can be established more a part of the PMO, and how do you see the application of AI with regard to the PMO?
Okay, so the PMO provides transparency and it provides information to make decisions on. It provides insights. And different PMOs, depending on what they are and what they do. So, for example, an ePMO, enterprise PMO, is a non-delivery PMO. It doesn't deliver projects, it actually aggregates information. And this is what we did, we do on big projects. We aggregate data across all the different project teams. And who actually provides the data to us? The PMOs around in the different teams. So the way we look using AI needs actually sort of 3 things to be in place. If you've got rubbish in, AI is rubbish coming out. So you need to have a structure. The actual foundation is all the frameworks, the structures that you go and have. The next thing you need to go and have is data. Okay, lots of data. So this is where you need to make sure that these things are designed. So for example, all the registers you have on projects, they're actually in a multi-user database, information structured in a certain way. The third thing you need to go and have is principles, okay? So ethics, principles, making sure these things are done properly. With the PMOs, unless the PMOs are actually at a certain level of maturity and impact, don't even bother considering with artificial intelligence. And we've actually think it's something like about level 3 maturity, level 3 impact. And a key point is that data doesn't know boundaries. Artificial doesn't know boundaries. So when you look at a portfolio, you would have a portfolio, which is a type of PMO, and you have all the projects and programs, and all of these have their own PMOs. They've all got to work together. They've all got to actually have things done in a consistent way. And once they do that, then you're able to use AI to the full to then provide insights that you could never provide before, or you never have before. To get an idea of that, we've built the first PMO maturity and impact model that actually uses various language models. We've ingested all our frameworks, all the data into it, and it's live, and people are using it here. And you can use artificial intelligence to actually query and also predict the performance of your PMOs. So we're actually building something you can use today to see how good you are and actually what you should be getting, because we provide insights. We're able to do this with a single PMO. We've done it now for 13 PMOs in South Africa for the government, and we also integrate their data as well. So what we've been doing is actually making sure the fundamentals are in place and building all the language models so we can do interpretations. We presented to the head of IPMA in South Africa just 4 days ago on the 12th of January. He was blown away with what we could do. I mean, he just started. And the next thing after that is to actually create the war room or the actual command center. And I've done that already with my other team. But when we built this thing, is the ability to use AI on this. We didn't have that technology at the time. It was 4 years ago. So you say about AI, AI will be throughout the whole of the organization. PMOs have to prepare for it in how they're built, the data and information, and also the rules and principles that are actually applied. And it's going to have a phenomenal change on them and the organization's ability to make decisions and actually have less decisions under uncertainty and have more under certainty. Yeah. So it has a major implication, and we're actually progressing and doing this now. Yeah, we're actually going to be building the first AI PMO in the next year, and we've got 2 companies that are considering doing it with us.
Thank you. Sounds like very promising. Yeah, Dr. Robert. Is it possible if you share about this maybe for the next webinar or discussions about this application of AI in the PMO?
It is. Yeah. I mean, we do this in the course. The course was rewritten about a month ago with AI integrated. And also we have an AI day. So we have actually a professor who actually builds all the models, actually teaches, and you apply AI. And what we're doing in the case study is the use of application to design and build PMOs. And we just started today, was the first day. We've got a few more days as well. Can I put a presentation together about the future of AI? I can. The only thing is that it's always the thing about intellectual property. So when we have written so many things that have been taken, questionably, we're a bit reluctant because we're small but innovative that some of the ideas we have may be taken by bigger associations, you see. So if we actually launch it, for example, with the MI model, we spent over 4 years researching and building it. And now we're actually going out full speed with all the associations, IPMA and other associations. So if you actually want to use it, somebody will paste you the link up, or I may paste the link, is that we want to actually make sure that we have the chance of succeeding, because some of these bigger associations have tens of millions of dollars that if they get the idea, they can potentially beat us to it. And so we're always cognizant about what we share and when to share and who to share it with. So in principle, yes, but I have to sort of see, I have to organize that with the AMPI people and who's actually invited to that conversation.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you so much, Dr. Robert.
No, thanks for the call, and thanks for joining as well. Much appreciated.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Cahyo, and thank you, Dr. Jocelyn, for the answer. Next, we have questions for Bu Rahayu, please.
Thank you. Robert, go back to your foresight view about the dynamic of the global professional organization. Actually, EMP, starting from the 2015, tried to do the partnership with the AIPM, IPMA, because what our interest on that is because the IPMA allow the every country have the independence professional organization. So we hope that we can establish the project management methodologies or values that align with our our values, our country values, something like that. However, I think the reaction, the pace of the partnership is not, it's not fluently. So maybe if you have any special relationship with the IPMA, that we would like to get your help for, to smoothing the partnership, because I think it is a very useful for us. That's the number one. And then the second question is sometimes, maybe most time, people would like to get the international certification because of the workforce forces, yeah. Because of the more we have the recognition internationally, then we assume that the more easier job we can get as a professional. And it is linear with the how close the country that produced the international certification with Indonesian, for example, like that. For example, suppose I'm working for the World Bank, and then it is funding by the World Bank. Then my World Bank maybe choose the international certification as a PMI certification instead of, for example, AIPM, Australian Institute Project Management, or maybe choose the China certification. So the workforce is also being our external forces to make one choose which certification they would like to obtain. So the question is how far, or how far the international certification provider have a G2G partnership, or maybe have a strategic partnership with the international financial institute like a World Bank, IMF, or ADB or IDB, something like that. Can you explain?
Yeah, to expand. So these are really relevant questions, because what we're seeing is polarization. So the first thing is that certifications, they're becoming branded. Brands, as I mentioned, people go to the brands rather than choose non-branded products. And who are the best guys in the world for marketing? Arguably, it's the Americans. They can sell anything. A refrigerator to the Eskimos, we would say. They can sell anything. And this is also interesting if I just take the two, because PMI is the dominant partner. In fact, it's not secret, but PMI made an offer to actually sort of buy IPMA more than once, take it over, so they get world domination or world coverage, shall we say. You want to, as a member, have a choice. And this is really important. And I think sort of have hats on the member view as well as okay, then how can I sort of provide it? If you look at PMI, PMI is much more of an autocratic organization. It's a centralized organization. The chapters do what the center tells them to do. It's a bit like the Republicans, you could say. It's not a democracy, it's more autocratic. If you look at IPMA, it's more democratic. The problem is democracy is fragile. People, it's bureaucratic. Like EU is very bureaucratic. It takes time. So what you've got is two different models that operate. You've got an organization that is very much centralized, that dictates into the chapters of who's allowed to speak. For example, I know that many people or individuals, including myself, that the chapters of PMI want me to speak, but they're told by the center not allowed to. You can only have approved speakers. There's also a thing with PMI, and it's also not secret and this sort of public, is that PMI is now insisting or making it that and anybody from PMI can actually confirm this, that if you're part of association like AMPI or part of anyone associated with people that are also part of PMI, you need to make a choice, either in PMI or you're outside PMI. So what you're seeing is that a dominant player is actually continue to dominate and making it very difficult for even bigger partners or organizations like IPMA to survive. And so unless we do something, and I've asked ChatGPT, and they know this, people are asking questions, and ChatGPT's told me this. It says they can't say who, but it's actually saying others are asking this. What chance are we surviving the smaller organizations unless we change something? In the Middle East, I work a lot in Saudi Arabia and other countries. PMI actually have professionals full-time paid to get every company to have just one box on training, and it's called PMP. Anybody that tries to get in afterwards, they say, we don't need it, it's not paid for. In Saudi Arabia, PMP is paid for by the government, so everybody gets it for free. Unless this group or an association gets it agreed, you're being forced out of the market. So what we see is that a centralized organization, command and control, can move much faster than a democratic one like IPMA, for example. So we need to either do something and come together, as my view, as associations, but not just do lip service, but something that is solid and well thought out, that it's a win-win for everybody, and actually have professionals that do it full time and not volunteer to make this thing happen. Otherwise, you are going to find that it's going to be just really a one-side player. And that's never good when you don't have a choice, and that's not good for anybody at all. So how can IPMA actually improve its sort of value to the various countries, but also survive as well? Is anybody from PMI on the call? Probably there are on the call here. It needs to look at branding. So we need to look at a global brand strategy. This is what I've always thought with IPMA, and they've actually changed this thing now, even to a point where maybe AMPI, for example, PRY is very strong in Finland. There's also in other ones. They may need to say, look, if we're going to survive, we need to change all our brands to IPMA and be part of it, a stronger part of it. But if you're going to go and get stronger in with IPMA, because that's the second biggest one in the world, it needs to have a very strong value proposition, but also it needs to be able to act and actually act aggressively. If it doesn't do it, it's going to be too late. So I think unless it does that, it's not going to happen. And that's one of the key things. Your thing, Rahu, is what value does it provide to yourself? So this is also part of that question. So what can the center provide to the individual countries? And this is maybe where we look at this federated type of certificate, where we actually have the choice. You have the choice as individuals of being able to pick up the engineering. The first question that was asked about the engineering certifications, that is part of this agreed global certificate. But there's also other ones that are in there. So you're looking at the brands, a bit like actually when I was in Thailand, there's this petrol station and everybody goes to it because it's got Amazon coffee shop in there. It's got 7-Eleven, and it was always the most popular one of all the petrol stations. Maybe that's what we need to go and do, is actually have the individual brands putting together, and then collectively they actually create greater value for the individuals. But then IPMA also needs to create greater value, or value both ways, to make sure that relation stays in place for a long period of time. Because otherwise, then if it falls apart, PMI can then use that weakness to then exploit it, to then dominate further. So that was the answer to the first one. But before I go on to your second question, is any comments back from yourself, Rahu, on that one?
Well noted, Robert. Because
Okay.
it's too fact.
Okay.
It is too fact, yeah.
The second one you asked me about international recognition. Yeah. So external forces, you're saying. External forces is, of course, other organizations. If other players, the biggest player said, look, you can actually have our certification, I won't have any, there's no point in sort of hiding it, PMI, PMP, and okay, look at IPMA and look at this and this and this. If that was actively done so that anybody could present at any conference and it's not restricted, and they sort of come together as a group, what's best for the community? choice is best for the community and diversity is always best for the community. If that was able to work, then that probably would be a great solution, but that's not realistic because it's more, even though that PMI is a non-for-profit, they have something like 600 million or more, I think almost $1 billion organization. They have a lot of money. And in the case of IPMA, the money's not in the center, it's within actually the member countries. And so because it's in the center, they can make decisions quickly and they then reflect it out to all the different chapters because of the whole governance structure. So if this new structure is going to work with some national players or international players like IPMA or maybe AIPMO, is that this governance structure has got to be fast and flexible and adaptive. Otherwise, you've got no chance against a centralized structure that's already shown 40 years of success. And they're extremely aggressive, and they've got people, teams of people full time, going out there signing up all the companies and convincing the government that their certification is the best one to have and doesn't matter about anything else. Yeah, so recognition, they need to move faster, you need to change the governance structure, and it's got to be win-win for all the players within it. And it's not just talk, we need to take action. And if you don't take action, then the results, the outcome is going to be obvious. You won't have so much of a choice as members.
Okay, so you mean that the market entry pace is very important, right? To compete, to compete with the
biggest player. That's right.
Yeah,
that's
that is
right.
the market entry. That unfortunately what I told you before is the IPMA is very, it's like, it's like a giant. The decision is not supported very fast. And also we try in 2016, we also 2010 actually, we are also set up like a federation APFPM association APFPM association project Asia Pacific Federation Project Management. It's also the same business model with the IPMA. So we would like to have the mutual recognition among members within the Asia Pacific Federation Project Management. But again, because the financial is rely on the members, then the that federation is also very very weak, and the proposition is not strong as like a PMI. So I think not only the market entry strategy that we have to expedite, but also the business model between partnership between the between the country and IPMA or other professional organization. It should be transformed, should be transformed significantly. Otherwise then yes, I know the minimum, the pro and cons. Yeah, the cons of being the member of the PMI is being we are sometimes we are ignored with the country, the country expectation compared with the global organization. That is the cons, and we cannot compete. Not only the market entry strategy, but also the business model, the strategic partnership should be changed dramatically from my point of view. Thank
Well,
you, Robert.
it's happening. So AIPM was going out of business in Australia, and I was teaching there and talking to the CEO of about two of them. Now what they've done is dropped out of IPMA. They're trying to get into the Middle East to make money. But the thing is just another organization, and they've got their own things. So if we don't act together, as we're more powerful acting together as an independent group or federated group today, if we leave it for 2 years, we may be too weak to make any difference. The problem is that people who are in power often sort of sit there because of power and they don't realize what's happening around them. AIPMO, we never set up for profit. We don't charge membership. We have researchers, and we always planned to merge or partner with somebody else. We didn't want to go it alone because if we do what we do really well, we think we're the best in the world, but we know there's other associations that are really good at what they do. But you've got to take away personal ego and ambition and think of the group, the community. And this is the Swiss mindset. you always vote for the community and think of it rather than yourself. It's a Swiss concept. It's also true in nature. Communities, bees and birds, or bees, for example, sacrifice themselves for the colony. And in some ways, what we have to do now is if we're going to survive, we've got to take away that we're going to go it alone and accept that we will only survive if we work together and give the choices to all our members and find a way. And I don't know if we can, to be honest, it's going to be difficult. But unless we do this thing now, the probability of succeeding is going to drop over time as the dominant player increases its domination. It's my personal view. You're on mute, Sabto.
Okay, sorry. Thank you, Dr. Jocelyn and Burayu. This is quite interesting discussions, yeah. But next we have another questions from Mr. Anjas Pramana, please.
Okay. Can you hear me?
We can.
Dr. Robert and Pak Sabto. Okay, thank you. So good night, Dr. Robert and Pak Sabto. I'm Anjas from Jakarta. I noticed in your deck presentation another participant question about AI and PMO. So going forward between AI and PMO may become more integrated as unified force in strategic decision making within the organization. From your perspective, over the next maybe 3 or 5 years, will the PMO evolve into a center of contextual judgment and maybe strategic influence, or will it come the first governance function to be fully automated by AI? What maybe the constraint indicator can be already observed today that suggest one outcome over the other? And sorry, I am very worried when the strategical decision making not based on historical data but just made by AI in the future. Thank you, Dr. Robert.
That's a very good question, and everybody's interested in this. So you need to sort of look at the talk versus the reality. So, for example, is that people were talking about sustainability before the sort of geopolitical side, and we actually created a whole module on sustainability, and PMOs were talking about it, but nobody's doing it. When we wrote everything on AI, in fact, I actually didn't think I would get into AI at the age of 64. I thought, okay, I'll skip it, and I'm going to retire soon. But in fact, I'm going deep into it with the people, the models we're creating. You've got to go both feet into this thing here. So what's the impact of AI on PMOs? It's really down to you as you and your team. When we have people on the courses, and we now taught the courses from probably about 2 months now since we launched it last year, October, maybe 3 months. What we find is that nobody in PMOs are actually working with artificial intelligence. Nobody. So we've taught the course in Finland to the IPMA there. There were 27 people. There wasn't anybody, including consultants, working with artificial intelligence. And yet when they have a webinar, they have 600 people attending a webinar on artificial intelligence. So there's a lot of talk, there's a lot of interest, but no action. The same here in Indonesia. On the course now, there's 45 people. There may be one. And in fact, that's the gentleman that's actually doing he's in the COE, and I've asked him to specialize that and support on other PMOs. The others is really, there isn't that much understanding of it. So with artificial intelligence, it doesn't replace anything. So when we had the Industrial Revolution, we took away the need for muscle. When we look at, for example, digitization, it replaces old legacy systems. But AI doesn't. AI, you have to think in a total different way. And what I've seen with the older people and consultants is that we're all so busy that we just continue to do the same things. Too busy to look at this thing here. But the guys that are making the money, and I've actually worked with some young people of 20, 26, 27 years old, they're making an absolute fortune and actually creating things because they think in a different way, and they're not sort of limited by this sort of thinking that we've now had ingrained in us in the last 20, 30 years. So it really comes down to yourself as an individual team. What I did at this mega project with another doctor, he's actually a CEO of one of the 10th biggest construction companies. We built the EPMO and we built a war room. And in fact, I showed the picture of something similar what we did. We only came about because we mentioned to the CEO about a war room and he wanted it the next week. But of course, it didn't take us a week. It took us like 6, 7 months working day and night. And then we were putting all the data into the room. And what we built was a phenomenal war room that you could look at and point at data and actually see and then talk to people about the information. Where I see with PMOs is that there's going to be probably 80% of people in PMOs that won't be in their positions. Unfortunately, it's going to be reality within the next 3 to 4 years' time. It's the PMOs, really the ePMO is going to be the key one. And I think probably the COE as well. The delivery PMOs will are mainly going to be like one person. In fact, they may just be outsourced and actually have an organization that specializes on frameworks, data, principles, etc. And so the PMO that's going to be, I think, the most successful is the ePMO that it has all the data aggregated that actually runs these war rooms and is able to discuss and interpret the information at the sea level. Yeah, so this is where it's going. Are other people thinking the same as well? I also know many partners of the consulting companies like PwC, Ernst & Young, etc. They're laying off thousands of consultants because they don't need them anymore. And they sort of don't mean not publicly, but they admit that they don't need them because AI does it. I'm able to do things that would take me probably a year. I can do it within 4 weeks now. So if everybody is actually utilizing it into the max, clearly there's not so many jobs that are going to be around. And with PMOs, if you just put in the 20 or the 10 performance domains of PMI, or you put in R24 into ChatGPT and you ask it, how much of this can you do yourself? It's going to come out between 40 to 80% of this across the different service domains. What that means is it's able to do it. The question is, do you put your organization in a position where you leverage AI to increase the efficiency so you don't need so many people, not only in project management and the PMO side, but within the organization? Or do you wait until somebody else creates the future for you where you get obsolete or whether your company gets taken over? So the future really depends on yourself and whether you sort of go eyes wide open and actually build that yourself and put yourself in that position of head of ePMO with all the data and understanding and artificial intelligence, or do you wait until something happens to you? I think it's as simple as that.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Robert, for your perspective and insight for us.
It's a pleasure. I know it's not probably what you want to go on here, but I don't think you don't want me to sort of make a rosy story when probably it's not a rosy story. This is also why, by the way, in the US, my son is in the US and my daughter, they managed to get jobs at Oliver Wyman and BCG, but probably because I was teaching them and guiding them how to go and do it. A lot of their friends also from top universities are jobless. 24% or 25% of people from 22 under have no jobs, top qualified people, because of partly political risks or what's happening, but also because of artificial intelligence. So it is making a radical difference. It hasn't come to Finland, for example, because of their language, and it may not have come yet to Indonesia, but at some point it will do. So make sure you're prepared and you understand the actual implications behind it.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Robert Jocelyn. I think due to limited time, we only have one question left. It seems that Mr. Rivandi already asked a question. Perhaps I will give this last question to Mr. Fauzi Yusuf. Oh, there are plenty of people to ask. Okay, perhaps.
If you want to go on, I'm happy to stay on longer. Yeah, so I have no problem if people want to ask questions. Because I mean, this is the time when I'm here, so just use it. Stay as long as you want. If the other guys have to go, no problem at all. I'll just answer questions as you want.
Okay. I think I will. Okay, please,
Yeah.
Mr. Fauzi Yusuf.
Yeah, thank you, Pak. Thank you, Mr. Robert, for your sharing. As my motto, if Bu Rahayu ask question, I should ask something. Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry if there's noise. Actually, I'm on the way to my host. Was the question actually what is PIPMO business model? Is it I mean like PMI non-profit organization or like people said commercial, yeah.
Mhm.
And then how PIPMO sustain from your perspective as the founder? Yeah, because right now you are the leader, right? You are the founder.
Yeah.
PMO is actually only you, right? How you ensure that PMO sustain. Then
So,
the second,
yeah.
yeah, the last question actually from your perspective, my humble question, how do you see the positioning itself, EIPMO, the EIPMO positioning itself as the certification compared to PMI, uh, like the PMOC, PMI, PMOCP, and then Axelos, right now people said P3O. That's it. Pak Robert, thank you very much.
So very
Welcome
good.
to Indonesia.
Yeah, thanks very much. So very good questions. So originally I set up AI PMO as a non-for-profit originally. And in Switzerland, a non-for-profit, the people that set it up can be kicked out after 10 years, and we are 10 years today. And what I found is the people on this, they were doing nothing. They wanted others to do the work. It was bureaucratic. And because I've invested probably $2 million into AI PMO, if I'm open about it, I wanted to make sure that I can at least get money back because it's my pension. When I retire, I don't live in a cardboard box in Jakarta because I'm going to be getting wet. So I took it back into the company because nothing was done. And therefore, what we do is that we develop, we work with researchers, we write the standards, we subsidize AI PMO. We don't charge for membership. Yeah. So we don't actually have any firewall. Everything we do like this, we do for free because we want to give back to the community. All the books we write, the big one cost €250,000 to produce, took 3 years to write. We just charge really the price of what Amazon charges us. Why do we do it? Is because we have a social responsibility for everybody. And I also, you can tell with people that run organizations, if they do things, always want to get paid for something, or they do things because of, learning and sharing and etc. So it does belong to the company. I've always planned for AI PMO to be part of another association, to be like joined or acquired, and therefore we were sort of considering who would we want to go be part of. We could have, I guess, be with PMI, but we have a different culture. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. We're different to the Americans. Could have gone that way. The other organizations we discuss with, they were very much into they don't care who teaches the certifications, they want the money on the certification. We do care who teaches the certifications. And so our courses, we have 5 days for the foundation on PMO, 5 days for practitioner, 5 days for expert, 15 days. For us, it was never the money. It was all about the understanding. And you will see that, Fazu, from the course that we're actually running in these, the 2 days you've seen so far. So the aim, and there's actually discussions, and I can't go into a lot of details because on NDAs, but you will see something happening, and I actually think it's going to be the best for the community as well. We have a whole strategy, and it's over the 10-year strategy. You're seeing pieces of it, but you don't know where that puzzle actually ends up. So there is actually plans in place to make sure the future's there. So that's AI PMO. So it's a Swiss association. It belongs to a company. It was actually non-for-profit. We could put it back into non-for-profit, but in fact, we probably will partner with a non-for-profit, or we may be merged, be part of them. AI PMO is not important. It's what we've built, what we teach, and what you learn and take away, and what you share with others. That's the most important thing. To your second question, how do we position ourselves against PMI and the other ones? Well, we are research-based. What we do is we have a global view. We take research, we put it into a skeleton, into a framework, we test it in the case studies you are actually testing, and I tell you that openly. We test it on consulting assignments. We won the biggest project, and on the biggest project, we test everything that we do. We wrote the standard PM management 2 years ago, we're testing it. Invariably, when you take time to do something, it becomes much better because we've got a responsibility to make sure that we don't teach you stuff that doesn't work. We teach you the stuff that does work. Have a look at, for example, PMI. Do they test what they write? I know the answer. I'm not going to say what it is. IPMA, does it test what it actually writes? I actually don't know the answer to that, but we do test. So we actually have the consulting side, part of the company, IPMO Digital, IPMO Consulting, and that subsidizes the association. So we actually have to adapt because PMI have price dumped PMO certifications. We do 15 days with in-house training or with people. PMI does a video recording, 140 questions, and then you're certified. You can get it done in 2 to 3 days. So how do we compare with them? You should ask people that have done both certifications. I know my answer, but of course I'm biased. This is for you to then to work out. With Axelis, the first book we wrote was the PMO Principles in 2017. It was 30 pages. We wrote the second edition in 2022. The first book was absolutely rubbish, terrible compared with the second book. What we started in 2015 was one framework, and it wasn't brilliant, it was okay. Just like Windows version 1. What we have in 2025 or 26 is 10 integrated frameworks, very structured, designed by engineers, and we know it works. They've all been tested, every piece of it. If you want to certify with P3O, P3O was written in 2008 with ideas from 2004. It's like an iPhone 4. We have an iPhone 17 built to upgrade to 18, 19, 20. Do you want to have an iPhone 4 or do you want to have something that actually updates all the time? You decide for yourself. You've even seen in the course, I showed you some examples and I built a framework to show what it should be like. P3O has no PMO lifecycle. It has no impact frameworks. It doesn't have principles. And you wouldn't expect it to. It was the first one when it came out. But it's an old standard. So you also want to make sure you... Sorry? Somebody say something. So I think I answered both questions there. So the second part is that we're very different. We're the only ones that are research driven, I think, in the world, maybe IPMA, I'm not sure. And everything we have, people ask about this, and we actually, all the stuff you see in the books, we actually do citations of where it comes from. So we're very different to PMI, for example, and a lot of the other organizations. And then we actually were never set up to profit. We actually were designed for knowledge and understanding. And that we've always kept to that principle. Septa?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Jocelyn. Perhaps due to limited duration, unfortunately, we have to close our discussions tonight. So thank you for joining us today. Dr. Jocelyn has delivered a clear message: adapt to AI and changing demands or risk becoming irrelevant. Traditional certification tools are no longer sufficient. We must demonstrate real impact and contextual competence. His vision of a federated certification model offers a collaborative path forward, combining global recognition with local relevance. And thank you, Dr. Jocelyn, for these thought-provoking presentations, and thank you all for your engagement tonight. I pass on to the host, Ms. Visi, to the next agenda.
Baik, Bapak dan Ibu, mohon maaf sekali karena waktunya kita batasi sampai jam 9. Jangan lupa Bapak dan Ibu besok masih ada pelatihan. Deadline-nya di-set sama Pak Robert jam 9 pagi. Baik, Bapak dan Ibu, boleh kita buka kameranya untuk kita foto bersama terlebih dahulu? Please open your camera.
While you open your camera, if you want to pass questions on to us, just put it in the WhatsApp group and I can always answer it offline. Or the guys in the class, we can answer in the class.
Oke, so kalau ada Bapak Ibu yang mau menyampaikan pertanyaannya boleh di-collect ke chat Zoom ini, nanti saya collect ke Pak Robert ya Bapak Ibu. Terima kasih. Baik, we gonna take a photo together. First, can everyone turn on their camera, please? Alhamdulillah satu kelas. Oke, Ibu Noveli, see you tomorrow.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining.
Thank you. Good night. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Robert, Bu Rahayu, Pak Krisna.
Bye for now.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Pak Fauzi.
Thank you,
Terima
Dr.
kasih.
Jocelyn. Thank you, Prof. Snai. Thank you. Good
Thank
night,
you.
Terima
everyone.
kasih semuanya.
Terima kasih.
Thank you.
Selamat malam.
Thank you. Terima kasih
Terima
semuanya.
Mohon
kasih.
pamit. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Salam.
Izin live.